So I've worked with a lot of members who have come to me trying to change the dynamic of a toxic relationship. It does take a lot of skills in order to navigate it in the right way. One thing that I see again and again is that when you're in a toxic relationship or a difficult relationship, especially one where there's constant fighting or controlling behavior or emotional withdrawal, your own self-confidence as you're trying to rebuild this relationship can take a massive hit. And oftentimes your confidence can feel knocked down. You second guess yourself. You can feel like there's no real solid ground to stand on. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to keep your self-confidence in a toxic or difficult relationship. And I'm going to break down the 5 steps in order to rebuild a relationship whilst rebuilding your own self-confidence. So the first thing is why? Why don't you feel self-confident when the relationship dynamics are less than ideal? The truth is that our brains look for evidence to validate our own experience. This is a cognitive bias that happens naturally. It's called confirmation bias, and this is something that we all do whether we realize it or not. So as an example, if we start with low confidence, if we enter a relationship with low confidence because of previous relationships, past arguments, betrayals, unstable relationships that we've had, our brain is already primed to expect the worst. We start to look for the same evidence that we've collected along the way. So we end up thinking that this kind of chaos is just normal. Our brain just says, see, this is how love is, right? It's messy, it's loud, it's hurtful. And we can believe that this is just what love and relationships look like and feels like. So we don't end up doing anything. And that continues our low self-confidence. But this can also happen on the flip side when we start with high confidence. Even if you start with a strong sense of self-worth, that can be chipped away over time if we're in a relationship that we're struggling with. Even though we can validate ourselves, so we can tell ourselves, yes, I'm good at relationships, I can handle this, I'm a strong person. If more and more evidence builds up, for example, arguments, fights, your partner not speaking with you, then we can suddenly start to see that new evidence as either we were never good or worse, we're unable to handle this relationship. And this can knock our confidence. This creates doubt, not just in the relationship, but in yourself as well. And that's when people can start to spiral. Maybe I'm not as emotionally mature as I thought. Maybe this is too hard. Maybe I'm the problem. And this can create a toxic cycle. So we start to project our future based on the evidence at hand. And we start to assume that nothing ever will. You start to rely on toxic, maybe patterns or behaviors. We can start to believe that this is just what love looks like, arguments and shouting and fighting, and we don't do anything. We end up tolerating a low standard of relationships, and we put that normalization of the relationship low standards onto our partner as well. But when we start with high self-confidence, we can see that this isn't normal, and suddenly we can start panic thinking that we have to escape. And this can actually create more toxicity because we avoid the environment. We develop these toxic short-term behaviors in order to handle our partner's toxic behaviors. Instead of facing things with calmness and effective communication and tools, we start to react. And those reactions can be just as damaging as the reactions of toxicity that we receive from our partners. For example, if your partner is super suspicious of you, you can start to lie and hide perfectly innocent relationships because you worry about their response. And this can lead to them feeling like they need to check on you more because they sense that you're lying. You're not trying to be toxic, but you're trying to survive something that feels impossible. And as you start to see the outcomes, i.e. the relationship starting to get worse, that evidence starts to pile up. Your confidence starts to shrink. You lose access to the healthier version of you, and suddenly the future looks just like the past. This evidence builds up that you are not very good at this, which means that you look to the future and you see the same thing. Your self-esteem starts to drop. And then ultimately, as a result of all of this, this leads people to either break up. For example, I feel bad about myself. It's my partner's job to make me feel good, therefore I'm out. Or they stay and they feel bad about themselves, but they stay in the way that they go, well, I feel bad about myself, but the only good thing I have is my partner. So if I don't have them, then I have nothing. You don't need permission to grow. Your self-esteem building does not need to be reliant on your partner. In fact, leaving it to be reliant on your partner is going to cause more problems than it solves. You are able to build your own self-esteem within the relationship, and as an emergence of that, that will have a massive impact on the way that your relationship dynamics are cultivated and grow over time. So step 1 is very simple. Take daily ownership of your emotional world. it's very easy to lose track of your feelings. You might gaslight yourself, dismiss your needs, or feel like your emotions are too much. So the antidote isn't to silence yourself, it's to see yourself clearly. So your power move in this situation is to ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? You can also ask yourself, what do I need emotionally from me, not them? Then learn how to validate it. It's okay that I feel XYZ. It makes sense that I feel like this because of XYZ ABC. It matters to get into this habit of learning to understand what you're feeling, as well as being able to validate the fact that you feel this way. Your emotional state has been developed because of what you've experienced in the past. Learning how to validate yourself means that you become less reliant on other people to validate you. And over time, this starts to build emotional clarity, which is the first building block of self-trust. When you look at yourself honestly, when you build self-awareness, you start to feel real again. You can recognize how you're feeling, how you got there, and learn how to adapt and change through these emotions rather than relying on the world to adapt and change for your emotions. Step 2 is to learn how to regulate your nervous system so that you can respond instead of reacting. So toxic dynamics can keep your body in a survival state, like a fight, flight, or freeze, whatever you ascribe to. Ultimately, if you don't calm your nervous system, even the best intentions get hijacked by panic or people pleasing. And this is not weakness, this is just biology. But your body's default reaction is often not the thing that is going to help you long term. So yes, this is normal biology, but it's also your responsibility to learn how to retrain it. So the power move in this situation, to take back your power daily or as needed, is to, when you feel overwhelmed, shut down, or panicked, to practice paced breathing. So this is inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 7 seconds, exhaling for 8 seconds, and repeating this 4 times. This downshifts your nervous system into a much calmer state. You can pre-rehearse this. So if you know your emotional triggers, if you know certain things that your partner says that trigger certain emotions in you, rather than stopping them from triggering you, rehearsing how to respond to these triggers is going to be crucial. And what you can do is you can emotionally rehearse this paced breathing so that it comes automatically. Take the time to prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to focus on the trigger. Imagine, visualize the trigger of your partner saying something that triggers you, and then practice this 4-7-8 breathing. So over time, what this does is that even without the breathing, you're training your brain to regulate itself naturally. Because your body can't differentiate between what is real and what is not real, this helps you to reset your brain from emotional overload, and it helps you to stay calm in the moment so that you can learn to respond instead of reacting. This matters because regulation gives you back your choice. You don't need to suppress your emotions, you just need to lead them. You need to know what to do with them. So you're not stopping yourself from feeling angry or hurt or triggered. What you're doing is you're training your body to regulate so that the chemicals within it don't go haywire and lead you to act on anger or fear or hurt, but be able to respond in a much calmer way. So step 3 is to redefine success as self-awareness, not keeping the relationship stable. So stop measuring your worth by how together the relationship looks from the outside. When you are involved in a difficult relationship, these difficulties are always temporary. This is something that can be broken, but it needs to be done in the right way. So oftentimes people just try to keep the peace, and this means you end up betraying yourself and the relationship. You start to define the relationship as to the amount of arguments that you do or don't have, rather than the things that are within your control, which is your own self-esteem and self-regulation. So your power move here is to start asking yourself, what is this relationship teaching me about me? What behaviors have I performed that don't align with who I want to be? What do I want to look like to succeed? What would it look like to me to succeed at being honest instead of being liked? To be able to respond in a calm, effective manner rather than react in an emotional way. And this matters because it starts to recenter your goal around growth, not about some perceived perfection of the relationship. They just need to be iterated on and to have those challenges tweaked in the right way. And within every relationship, you're able to learn something that makes you better, that provides data for you to be able to grow into a much more adaptable person. They teach you something. You just need to constantly learn the challenges as a learning opportunity to develop and grow your skills to make you a better version of yourself. Step 4 is to track your patterns without shame. Then create a plan. So if you're serious about building your confidence, then you need more than awareness. You need structure, and that means owning your own patterns without blaming yourself, and then consciously choosing new behaviors. Your power move here is once a week, reflect. Where did I go quiet when I should have spoken up calmly? When did I try to fix them instead of feeling my feelings and owning what I did? When did I feel like I abandoned myself and didn't communicate effectively? And then make a plan. The plan could be, I need to learn how to communicate clearer and calmer, or I need to learn how to identify my feelings within the difficult moments and then put that plan into action. So every day, choose something to improve. So like when we go to the gym, whatever, 3, 4, 5 times a week, however you want to do it, create a plan that works in the same way. So as an example, I feel jealous when my partner talks about that guy in work. Therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mentally rehearse my partner talking about the guy in work, and I'm going to perform my breathing exercises. And this is what I'm going to do 15 minutes every day in order to train my body to be able to maintain a calm demeanor and not react in the way that I have done in the past. Performing these new habits daily matters because this is how you build your self-respect, not through being perfect, but for showing up differently on purpose. Deliberately identifying your blind spots and being able to work through them day in, day out will help you to grow your self-esteem because you'll be able to start to see the evidence of your ability to change and grow. And step 5 is to trust the growth process over the chaos. So real confidence doesn't come from the relationship getting better. It comes from becoming someone who stops abandoning themselves no matter what the other person does. Confidence comes from learning to trust the process rather than yourself. As an example, you don't build confidence in yourself through going through school. You build confidence in the process of learning. You build confidence in the curriculum, right? This isn't about your ability. If you try to learn a university degree by yourself, just by grabbing some books, it would be very difficult to trust yourself. But because there is a process established in how to learn, you learn to trust that process. And the same goes for self-growth. Trusting that if you continue to look for your blind spots and to look for the ways for you to improve and to take action on them, then it becomes a choice. You just choose one action that invests in your future self. Saying no to something small, examining your feelings, building your self-awareness, learning how to self-regulate, learning how to communicate better, learning how to validate, getting rid of the actor-observer bias, which I speak about quite a lot, and a lot of my members talk about. This matters because you don't need to be fully healed to learn to build trust in the process. You just need to learn where to take action, right? You just have to trust the process, and that is something that is objective outside of you. And this is what a lot of my members have found when they join, is that they can often start with lower self-confidence because of a difficult place in the relationship or separation or divorce. But once they learn that growth is a process, then they don't need to trust in what their partner has said or the world has said or what they've said about themselves. They just need to look at the evidence that stacks up as they grow. And this is exactly like going to a gym. You don't have to believe in your ability to do it. You just have to perform the actions in order to get there. And it's the same with any self-growth. This is why so many of my members have so much success, is because they don't rely on their own self-trust. They rely on showing up and the action, which is the thing that matters the most. And this can be a mindset shift for a lot of people, because oftentimes we can believe our own lack of self-confidence. And this is where I step in, because I see past the people's lack of self-confidence, and I know that with the right process, then they're able to grow past that and outgrow what their ability they think is. And that is the key to rebuilding a relationship, rebuilding yourself, and reconciling with a partner even, is learning to grow past other people's and your own perception of yourself, past the limits of what you think you're capable of. So If you want to start your journey and you want to join us, then sign up for my relationship bootcamp, where you're going to learn the same fundamental steps that all my members start with before we start working together in order to start repairing, rebuilding your own self-confidence and ultimately your relationships moving forward. All you have to do is click on the link in the description to grab your spot. And this is what it's all about. This is relationships, confidence, emotions. These are all skills. These are not something that you have to just wait to change. These are things that with the right action, you can change yourself. You don't have to sit and let the world pull you around emotionally. You're able to sort of take control of your own emotions and be able to use them to guide you in the right direction. I've actually done a deeper dive video on mastering your emotions in order to master your relationship, which I'll link to on the screen. Ultimately, self-regulation and learning how to perform what we call emotional alchemy, turning perceived negatives into actual positives, is going to be crucial for rebuilding, repairing, and regrowing any relationship. So I'm going to leave you with that deep dive, and I will see you over there.